Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about my experience with CAMHS and my mental health in general. This is my first ever video, so please bear with me because I have no idea what I'm doing. I've just written some brief notes just to help me along the way, because like I say, I am new to this whole YouTube making videos sort of thing, but I'm really passionate about mental health, obviously having had my own experiences with it, and I kind of want to raise more awareness of it, and I feel like the best way to do that is through making videos. So I was basically referred to CAMHS in October 2015 from my GP. Yeah, because originally I went to my GP with my mum about my eating issues, and the GP basically referred me to CAMHS, and they said they should get back to me within about a week, which is actually quite surprising because usually CAMHS are known for like being really slow and they don't get back to you for a really long time. Well, the waiting list is a really long time. Anyway, so the GP did that, and then they said come back in a week and we'll just see how you are then. So I came back in a week and I'd lost more weight, and they were like, right, okay, we're going to try and speed up your process. And CAMHS, I think I had an appointment, like my initial assessment with CAMHS was like the next week, so for me it was quite quick. So I think the whole process was about 2 weeks. And so I had my initial assessment with CAMHS. They made me fill out a few surveys and questionnaires, and just to see like where I was at with my mental health. And then I can't remember if it was the same day or if they got me to come back a week later. But then I remember ending up having a session with myself and my parents and two, I think they were just psychologists. I don't think they were like CBT therapists, they were just like child psychologists. Yeah, so I remember spending like 3 hours there. It's crazy. We basically spent 3 hours going over my childhood and basically my history and growing up and all that. Managed to get like a record of my mental health history growing up. And then I think it took a few more sessions for them to finally formally diagnose me with anorexia. Yeah, that was the only thing I was diagnosed with, although I knew I had OCD as well because I'd done my own research and my symptoms matched up to the symptoms that I'd read in books and online. And I mentioned that, but overall I felt like CAMHS really only dealt with my anorexia, to be honest. So my OCD was sort of like shunned to the side and sort of overlooked. Yeah, so basically, so that was October 2015, and then I began having family therapy sessions once a week. To be honest, I don't really remember like benefiting from them at all. Like literally it was once a week. Every week, obviously before the session started, I would get weighed and have my blood pressure checked. And then my parents would come into the room and we'd basically discuss how my week had been in terms of food and eating, because obviously by this point I was put on a meal plan, so oh god, it was like breakfast, morning snack, lunch, morning snack, tea, and then a snack after tea, which obviously at the beginning I did not like at all. I was like, how you on that, I resisted and I tried to put my foot down, but my parents They were really strong about it. Anyway, yeah, so basically it was really hard for me, obviously, for someone with an eating disorder, for anorexia, now having to go from barely eating anything to eating like over 2,000, 3,000 calories a day. Oh god, that was awful. I kept diaries of this whole experience. If you want to hear them, let me know in the comments below and I could do a separate video on that. So from between October 2015 to about, I think it was December, that was going on. And I had weekly sessions every week, obviously, just discussing how my week had been. I didn't have any sort of like, I wouldn't call it therapy. I didn't have any sort of like one-on-one sessions with a counsellor or a therapist, or, you know, it was literally family therapy every single week. How much I'd eaten, how I felt, you know, that was until December. I wasn't getting any sort of like anything on like how to cope with it and to stop it from happening and blah-de-blah. And then in December, if I remember correctly, yeah, I overdosed, and that was the first time I've ever done it before, and I felt really anxious, and I wouldn't say it was a result of having overdosed. I felt anxious because I didn't know what I'd just done, like I didn't know what was going to happen. Basically I had CAMHS the next morning, and I was quite withdrawn, and I wasn't really like, what's the word, I wasn't really engaging. There we go, I got there. I wasn't really engaging with the session, so my therapist basically pulled me to one side and she was like, notice that you're not really yourself. Has anything happened? And I kind of, I don't know, I was just so anxious at this time, like I was really worried that I was gonna like drop dead or something. I mean, obviously that's what I wanted, but I mean I was just anxious because it hadn't happened yet. Anyway, cut a long story short, I basically told her what I'd done, and she told my mum, and my mum burst into tears and she got all angry and upset, which I suppose you can hardly blame her, to be honest. And then my therapist was like, you've got to get her down to A&E as soon as possible, just to make sure that nothing serious has been done. Which is what we did. So after that, after the session, we went to A&E, and I'm pretty sure we had to wait for like 3 hours. And I had my blood test done, and they came back fine, and that was it. I was sent home. There was no like aftercare, there wasn't any like I didn't speak to any like mental health team at all. I mean, obviously I had to explain I overdosed because of, I couldn't deal with CAMHS like interfering on my life, and I couldn't deal with my parents making me fat, and yeah, I just didn't really want to be alive. So I mean, obviously, I mean that was it, and I was sent home as if nothing had happened, sort of thing. And I had like, I think my next session was a week later, and I don't remember them asking me about my overdose again. It was literally just like, oh, so how has your week been in terms of eating? You know, to be honest, I didn't expect anything else. And then so that carried on until about February 2015? No, 2016, I'm getting so confused. Yeah, so that continued, my sessions continued over Christmas to about February 2016 this year. And I was due to go on a school trip to New York, and basically with my OCD it makes me feel so guilty, and it makes me feel like I am a really bad person and that I don't deserve anything. So the day before we were due to leave, which I believe was a Sunday, I felt so guilty, and my OCD was basically pulling up things from the past and making me sort of go back in my memory and review the memory. Basically, oh god, I'm really shit at explaining things. I think it's because I know I'm talking to a camera and it's really weird. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, it's basically my OCD brought up things from the past few days and made me sort of ruminate over things I had done, or things that didn't necessarily happen, but my OCD makes me believe that they did happen, and it's really, really difficult. It's really, really kind of hard to explain, and it's probably extremely difficult to understand if you don't suffer from my sort of OCD. But anyway, I felt like complete shit, and I felt like I didn't deserve to go on this trip to New York, which I'd been really, really looking forward to, because I've never been to America before. Well, I had never been to America before in my life, and I'd always wanted to go. So I went away, and my OCD literally kicked off the whole time I was there, and it made me feel so awful, and just crap. I was constantly on edge all the time. And then to make matters even worse, my anorexia kind of creeped up again. The first couple of days, I'd say it was alright, but I mean, I only ate salad because we went away and basically the school had already like pre-arranged like a set menu for each restaurant we were going to go to. And obviously the only thing I'd eat from the menu was salad. Anyway, so on the Tuesday I think we went to Grand Central Station, and we basically explored Grand Central Station, and me and my friends went to this milkshake bar. I remember thinking that all my friends are drinking milkshakes, that's a normal thing to do, I want to be part of that, I want to feel normal. And I also thought, right, I've still got a couple of stone to gain, so what harm is a milkshake going to do? So I had this milkshake, and then I stupidly gave in to the anorexia and found out how many calories was in it. There's a lot of calories, 700, god. And that literally like tipped me over the edge. And for the remainder of the trip I didn't eat anything at all. Apart from all of that, it was a good trip. It was amazing, like I've made loads of memories and it was just fantastic, and I'd so go back there. New York is amazing. If you haven't been, go. What are you doing? Just go. But yeah, so I came back and I can't remember how much weight I'd lost, but I had lost more weight. Yeah, CAMHS were like threatening me with a hospital admission with an NG tube and all that, and this basically carried on for the next 4 weeks. No, it was a really, really difficult 4 weeks, because like having just relapsed in New York, I was back in that mindset of no, I don't want to recover, I want to lose weight, I want to be skinny, I want control of my life, blah de blah, all that. About a month later in March, yeah, everything was pretty crap in March. I'm really shit at this YouTube thing. Because I really want to be able to talk to the camera and talk to you guys and help you as much as I can, but I can't seem to get a sentence together. It takes me, oh god, I'm just not with it today. Sorry guys. Anyway, so, as I was saying, a month after New York, basically my OCD got really bad again, and my anorexia was really strong, and basically telling me to go against my parents and go against CAMHS and to relapse because I was too fat and I needed to be skinnier, basically. So I ended up overdosing again, this time more than the last time, and because I kept a diary at that time when I was recovering. Anyway, I wrote about what I did, and then I put my diary like under my bed, outside basically. Then I woke up in the morning, I slept through my alarm for school the next day, and my parents shook me awake like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You've got school? And I was just sort of like, I can't be arsed sort of thing, like, why didn't this overdose work? Why am I still here? Just leave me alone sort of thing. And then, I don't know how he found it, but my dad found my diary and he read what I did, and then he told my mum, and I was screaming and shouting and crying. Dad took me to A&E, and I had a blood test, and I thought, oh right, this is what happened last time, they're just gonna tell me that I'm fine, I can go home, I can carry on being depressed at life and whatever. And then they came back and they were like, no, you've got to stay in overnight, we've got to admit you. Yeah, anyway, so like, no, you've done a bit of damage. It's not like extreme, but obviously damage is damage, so they hooked me up to a drip, and then I stayed in the emergency ward. Well, it's the ward where you come from A&E. And I was there for 2 days, absolute bloody hell. And then at the end of it, I saw the crisis team, which consisted of one adult from the adult services. And they basically asked me why I'd done what I'd done and my history of mental health, and I explained it. Surprised she understood what I was saying half the time because I was an absolute bit. And she was like, oh, do you feel safe enough to go home, or do you want to stay in? And if I'm honest, I didn't feel safe at all. I felt so scared of leaving the hospital. I just felt like my brain was at war with me. I genuinely felt like a victim of my own head, and I couldn't bear the thought of having to go home and not have any support. Because at this time CAMHS were thinking of discharging me, obviously because I turned 18 in December 2015, and this was now March 2016, so we're already talking about discharging me, and I thought, oh hang on a minute, like, no one wants me, no one wants to help me, no one cares. If I go home now, I'm going to be left with no support at all. I'm probably going to overdose again. But then she came back and she was like, no, I don't think you're a risk to yourself, so we can discharge you and you can go home and carry on as you have been. So I was like, right, okay. And I remember spending like the next week or so moping around the house in bed, just really, really depressed. And then I had an appointment with CAMHS discussing what had happened over the past couple of weeks, and my parents were like, oh, just take her into hospital, like she's not complying at all with this meal plan. And obviously I didn't want that to happen at all, having just spent just a couple of days on the emergency ward. Like, it wasn't even an inpatient unit, and I was like, that was hell. That was complete hell. So just imagine what an inpatient unit would be like. I didn't want that at all, so I agreed that I was going to try harder, and I did try harder. CAMHS was still talking about discharging me, and at this point I was a about to sit my A-level exams, my A2 exams, because I was in year 13. And I was really anxious because basically I missed a whole chunk of school because I just didn't turn up. And obviously because of my mental health, it was shit. And so I basically asked about this whole special circumstances thing, which CAMHS basically write a letter to the exam boards just explaining what's happened over the past however many months. Basically saying, look, this is what's happened. Is there any chance that the examiners will take this into consideration and not be too harsh when they're marking the papers, basically, because this person's had a tough time. Which I was grateful for. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, that would make sense. So she said she was going to write it and send it off that very day, which is all great, you know. Stupidly I trusted her and left it and assumed she would do it. And then it got closer to the exam period and I was feeling a bit like, oh, actually I'm not sure. Like, I'm not entirely convinced that she's actually sent it off. So my dad rang her up and she was like, no, I haven't sent it off. This was like, what, a couple of months later? Like literally a few weeks before I was meant to start my exams. She was like, no, I haven't sent it off. I'm surprised you as parents didn't chase it up. And it was sort of like, well, it's not really their place to. If you say you're going to write this letter and send it off, we sort of assume that's going to happen. And it's just basically like blaming parents for everything, and it was all a bit shitty. And then they were like, oh, you haven't actually helped at all. Like, CAMHS are a complete joke, blah de blah. Because there were other things that happened, like my mum didn't get on with my therapist at all. Like my mum felt really sort of like attacked all the time, and that the therapist was sort of like portraying her to be like the bad cop of the situation. So my mum didn't like her at all. And basically, it was at that point where we'd sort of like had enough. Like her not sending off a letter was like the final straw, sort of thing. God, and there were threats about going to court and all that crap. And then my parents thought, you know what, it's not worth it. Like, it's just going to make everything 100 times more stressful. We don't need that right now. So, yeah, then my therapist basically wrote the letter and sent it off. And then I'm pretty sure I was discharged. But by that point I had been given the referral for AMHS, which is the adult services, obviously. And I had my assessment with them sort of end of April, I think, and then I don't think I actually started seeing them until like July, August sort of thing. I mean, they're not hugely better, but I feel like they've done a lot more in terms of actually helping my mental health. Like, I still go now and I see my key worker every week when she bothers to turn up. So I see her like once a week and we do lots of stuff on my self-esteem. I'm trying to build up my confidence, which I think is like key to keeping my recovery mindset going, because I'm actually doing quite well right now. Like, I'm eating independently. I'm so much better than what I was like a year ago. Like, a year ago, oh god, like I couldn't even eat a meal, and when I did, like, I just felt so awfully guilty. And you know, like, if you suffer with an eating disorder, you know what I mean. I'm really crap at explaining things, I'm so sorry. But like, what I'm trying to say is now, a year later, I'm in such a different mindset, I'm in such a different place. So in conclusion, I'm going really off topic here. In conclusion, my experience with CAMHS wasn't really great. I mean, Do you know what? I thank them for getting my parents to really support me and get on my side and really push me to physically recover. Because that is pretty much all I feel like CAMHS have done. All they did was get me to gain the weight. So they physically helped. They didn't mentally help me, which is bizarre, seeing as they're a mental health service. Yeah, so I basically thank them for getting my parents to help me to gain the weight. But that is it. They didn't help me at all in terms of my mental health. I had to go elsewhere. I had to go and get, I think I've had 2 private therapists now, and there's no comparison. Like, they're just so much better. But it just makes me feel really angry and upset for the people who can't afford a private therapist, because they are ridiculously expensive. But I'm just very grateful to my parents for supporting me and wanting to give me the best help that they can. And I'm grateful for that. No, guys, I'm really sorry. This video was so all over the place. I mean, like, I wrote notes. I wrote notes to help me along the way, and that still didn't help. But in all fairness, this is my first video, so, and I'm really crap at talking to people in general, let alone a camera, so just bear with me. I'm sure like I'll get the hang of this YouTube thing. If you have any other things you'd like me to talk about in a future video, let me know in the comments below, and yeah. Please subscribe if you'd like to hear more about me and my life. I don't know, like, this is my first video. I kind of want my channel to go in this sort of mental health, mental illness direction, because I feel like we need to raise more awareness. And I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning of the video, but you know what, it's so long ago now, I can't even remember. Yeah. Do you know what? I think I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead, so if you stay to the end, thank you so much for bearing with me, and I will see you next week. Bye!